Hi, it's Frank. I'm back with another vlog. This week I'm talking about Out in the Dark, directed by Michael Mayer. It's a movie concerning a gay relationship between Palestinian and Israeli. So, the main point of the film was to, I think, focus and show like the queer life that happens in both Israel and Palestine and the differences between that, but also how like the intersectionality of their identities as being, queer for both Roy and Nimmer, but also given like the situations back home are also very different. Like in Israel, Roy faces potential outing for being with a Palestinian, where like they have the scene with his parents where like the parents are just being really weird because Nimmer is a Palestinian and not because he's a homosexual. Um, but then for Nimmer, it just means complete lack of his queer identity when he's home. At least, like, I don't even think his sister knew. So um, he was able to be himself a bit more in Israel. But the main point is showing how like queer connections in the way that like for Nimmer, Roy was like really um, all he had in terms of like somebody he could be like openly gay with and also like discuss all his problems and be himself with. And for Roy eventually I think Nimmer also became that person who that was understanding and he could talk about anything with. In what ways is this a queer film? So definitely like going to a gay bar, um, where he goes with Mustafa. That's like it really reminds me of the Georgian movie we just watched. I can't remember the name of it, but just like I don't think there's like Tel Aviv is what is known for having gay life, but and like where Georgia is not. But the way that like they went to a gay they met at a gay bar and even like but then like another way they queered that is like they started the movie by showing Nimmer like crossing borders, like literally going to the fence, avoiding security just to go to the gay bar, um, just to be able to like be himself. Um, yeah, and just like the extent that Roy went to help Nimmer, uh, I think was reminiscent of queer films because I think kind of like queer love in some ways because it is more like cast aside by society and like queer people are outcasted, that like queer people in their relationships can become stronger and they're more uh they need each other more in that sense. So like with the fact that Roy and Nimmer would go so far for each other, and in terms of evaluating the costumes in the film, so definitely like Mustafa being a drag queen, that was an element of queer fashion. In terms of Nimmer and Roy, they both dressed pretty standardly and nondescript. Uh, there wasn't a lot of I don't think there's anything pointing to queer fashion for either Roy or Nimmer. Maybe having a bit of facial hair. I've heard that for Arabic people, having like a mustache can like can sometimes imply homosexuality in society. So I don't know if that had anything to do with it. I like the kind of the way that the film brought in action scenes. and like the music and everything, it sometimes just felt like an action film. Um, but it also, I think, I don't know a ton about the Israeli Palestinian conflict. Like, I've tried to read up on it, but what I liked about the film is that I feel like I learned a lot about the situation from like a personal level, and like what what like Palestinians, like what hoops they have to jump through, in the way that the Israeli government is just totally like uh, othering them, like labeling them as terrorists, and the way that propaganda has been taken by citizens, like shown by Roy's parents being very suspect of Nimmer just because of his appearance. Um, so, uh, what how did the film make you feel? Um, the film made me feel sad at the end, with the way that Roy told Nimmer, "Oh, I'm gonna meet you in France, and we'll have our life there, and everything will be okay." And then, of course, he's like taken by the police and is not able to get away. Um, but also, like, I was kind of astounded by the levels of which Roy was really willing to go for Nimmer to help him and get away and get a better life in France. And I just think that like kind of points to queer love. Um, and how was my experience with the subject matter? Well, um, I don't I don't have really any experience being in Israel or being in Palestine, but um, one thing that I can relate with from the movie is uh, I had a lot of friends who were Arabic in high school and middle school, because I lived in a very Arabic neighborhood, and they oftentimes, to have relationships, even heterosexual ones, but especially homosexual ones, they had to be very, very discreet, because it's a very community based area. So, if you're walking around with somebody and somebody sees you, they're probably your cousin, or they know your family, their family friend. You call everybody, as long as they're older, like auntie or uncle, and you give respect to them. So, like, I even dated this when I was in high school. I dated this girl named Frida, and like if we were walking together around in her neighborhood, she was Bangladeshi, so not exactly the same, but like I would have to walk like 10 feet behind her, and like we wouldn't really make eye contact. So I guess in that's my only kind of experience of the subject matter at all. It was a great movie though. Thanks for recommending it or assigning it to us, Professor Atai.